Hello everyone and welcome to week 9 of our Introduction to Literature class. This week we're going to be finishing up the novel Winter's Bone, and you're going to be working on a take-home exam. It's an open book exam and it's due on Sunday. There's no discussion and no quiz this week. Your only focus is to finish the book and then finish the exam work. I hope you've enjoyed the first half of the book. I wanted to review some of the themes, motifs that I mentioned last week and give you a few examples of them and then kind of preview what's coming up for the exam. As you've been reading, we are introduced in this beautiful, lovely, sad, tragic book to a fantastic hero named Rhi, a 16-year-old girl who is described as being brunette and 16 with milk skin and abrupt green eyes, bare-armed in a fluttering yellowed dress, face to the wind, her cheeks reddening as if smacked and smacked again. That almost provides foreshadowing for what's happening to her in this novel. Throughout the book, we see a character who has an enormous responsibility on her shoulders. She's in charge of her two brothers. She's taking care of her mom. Her father's gone missing, and she's about ready to lose her home. One thing that she continually relies on throughout this book, all the way to the end, is nature and her relationship with the natural world. We see it with her recordings that she listens to. We see it with her ability to stay in the cave, which is always such a strange and wild scene when I read it. We see it when she has a thinking rock to sit on. And we see it with the animals that she discusses. We see it with just how comfortable she is in the natural world. There's a couple times in this first part of the book where I think Rhi should be breaking down and crying. When the sheriff comes to tell her about the house, when she shows up at Hawkfall and realizes that her father might not be coming back. When those moments happen, she internalizes that emotion. She internalizes that pain. For her in this community, tears are a sign of weakness. And there's even a description of her early on that says she's been beaten with a rake in front of other people a couple times and never cried then. When she's with Megan at Hawkfall, and she realizes that she's truly alone on this journey, I think there's a moment in her where she wants to break down and cry. Instead, she squats down on the ground, grabs some snow, and kind of crushes it into her face, almost to mask any tears that she would have with the melting snow that's on her face. Finally, though, we see a place in this first half of the book when she can emote, when she can show physical vulnerability, emotional vulnerability. And it's only in nature that she can do that. It's when she's on the bridge after the morning, or after the night she's spent in the cave. She's crossing a bridge, looking down at some ice, and she realizes that her eyes are searching past that ice for something that might be below that ice, something that might be her father. And at that moment she cries and she weeps by herself in nature. Now I think if we asked Rhi, she might say that she wasn't by herself at that moment. She had the natural world surrounding her, a place of comfort, a place of support, a place of truth. And that continues through the book. So I want you to focus in and look for those moments. The essay on the exam asks you to pick some of these moments where Rhi's relationship with the natural world is described. And I want you to think as you're finishing this book, what exactly is the nature of that relationship with nature? Sorry for the double nature there. What are the elements or aspects of that relationship? What does nature give her? How does nature support her in a way that the human world doesn't in this book? There are many moments that I get upset about her family members, about her friends that seem to abandon Rhi at her greatest time of need. But that natural world that surrounds her is always there for her. Now this is an example from the first half of the book where we see nature really providing support for her. Blonde Milton comes and picks her up, forces her in the truck, says, I'm going to take you to the last place I saw your dad. He ends up taking her to this burnt out trailer where he said a lab has gone wrong and the place exploded in fire and that her father most likely died there when this occurred. Rhi, being smart, savvy, and wonderfully strong, decides she's going to go there and find her father's bones. If they're really there, she's going to bring them back. He says don't go there. There's a lot of chemicals, a lot of dangerous things around. And she walks up to the property. And she says 3 different times this kind of thing that just seems to be bouncing off in her head. Horse weed turned white, stood chin high in the floorboard holes. She says it again on page 77. Horse weed turned white, stood chin high in the floorboard holes. Finally, Blonde Milton takes her back home, and he offers this. Me and Sonia talked about it. We feel we could take Sonny off your hands. Not Harold, I don't reckon. But we take Sonny. We could help that much. You what? Said Ree. We could take Sonny for you and raise him up the rest of the way. And Ree says, my ass you will. Watch your mouth, me girl. We'd raise the boy way better than your mama yours can, that's for certain, sure. Maybe down the line we could take Harold too. Ree started walking fiercely toward the narrow footbridge. He snatched at her arm from behind. She spun away. On the flat bridge she paused and called, you son of a bitch. You go straight to hell and fry in your own lard. Sonny and Harold will die living in a fucking cave with me and Mom before they ever spend a single fucking night with you. God damn you, Blonde Milton. You must think I'm a stupid idiot or something. There's horseweed standing chin high inside that place. Now this is a moment where Blonde Milton is lying to her. The people at Hawkfall have been lying to her. Merib's been lying to her. But nature's telling her the truth. She can see how tall those weeds are and know that they're tall enough that the timeline of that place burning down doesn't fit the timeline of her father's disappearance. And this is a great moment where we see her relationship developed and exposed with the natural world. It's a place that tells her truth. It's a place that's honest with her. It's a place she can go to for information. And that makes it much different than the human world. One more thing I just want you to think about as you're finishing this book and getting ready for the exam is Woodrell's writing style, which I find really provocative and interesting and beautiful. He definitely has chiseled away some of those words. It feels more poetic. He's also working with phrases and language that's out of his experience living in the Ozarks. He has this style in this book where the chapters kind of end with what I best can describe as a flourish. There's just a little last line to make you think, or last line to make you laugh, or last line that's begging to be interpreted. And here I want to give you an example of one, and just watch out for him as you're reading the book. I think it's an interesting style point from him. This is from the scene where she's just gotten back from Blonde Milton. She goes to get out her father's guns, and she starts making her brothers practice shooting them. I think, of course, she's worried about if she's going to survive this. She's worried about her brothers learning this. She's got to teach them that. But I think this is also a warning to her neighbor, Blonde Milton, who just lied to her. He's going to hear those guns going off, and he's going to maybe think about his strategy going forward with Ree. Anyways, at this point, finally, somebody comes over the hill, and it's Gale, and Ree is so excited. It reads like this. The shape saw Ree and the boys and the weapons, halted, tried to raise its arms, but could not raise the bulky thing overhead, and said, God damn, Sweet Pea, it's just me and my baby. What blue blazes is going on over here? What in blue blazes is everyone doing with a gun out over here? On hearing that voice, Ree broke her tense stride and ran joyously to Gale's side. She held the shotgun swaying low and leaned to kiss the crown of Gale's head. She snorted, laughed, gave a joshing shove, and said, I knew you wouldn't eat shit long. I knew you good enough to know that. I knew you'd get back to yourself and show up for me. I just knew. Gale touched her free hand to the shotgun, raised the barrel until it pointed at the sky. She said, What on earth gives? That ends the chapter. What on earth gives? Now, I think she's asking there, of course, why are you shooting these guns? What on earth gives? What's going on here? I think that's what Gale's saying, and she's kind of inquiring about what the need is to practice shooting these guns. But it also begs the question that the novel begs. What on earth gives? What in this book offers help to Ree? What gives things to us as a species on Earth, on this planet? I think Ree would answer it a couple ways. Certainly she'd say the natural world. That the images of nature, being around nature, help her in her life. But also, what on earth gives at this moment? It's Gale. It's friendship. It's it's companionship, it's love, it's support. It's one human supporting another. So what on earth gives can be answered two ways here. Nature and love. And I think these are two things that move throughout the book, and we'll see where they end up. We'll see where Rhea ends up after this journey, if she ends up alive or dead. And we'll see what happens to the family's house. We'll see what happens to the mom. And we'll see what happens to Jessup. We don't know yet. So, as you're reading this week, look for those nature moments and mark them down. You can look at the exam it's posted, so there might even be, that'd probably be a good strategy for you, is to take a look at the questions and look for that information as you're finishing up the novel. If you have any questions and concerns, please feel free to reach out, and I look forward to you submitting your work. After this, we have 2 weeks left of the class. We got a little bit of poetry work and then one more major assignment, and we are done with this unforgettable summer semester. All right, take care, everyone, and I will be talking to you soon.